I'm Cosmic Conroy, and you are very welcome to this, the Bitcoin Tarot podcast for the week starting the 10th of August 2018. Last week, the card said that our work would bring abundance. And then what happened? Let's go over to Charting Chad now to find out and to hear this week's charting report.
Thanks, Conroy. It's been an exciting week in Bitcoin this week. Over on the Ethereum chain, they found out that 15% of all their blocks, they're filled with some kind of tumbler, hiding transactions sneakily. Ethereum's all sneaky. Meanwhile, over on Bitcoin side of things, the New York Stock Exchange have said they plan to run a futures market in Bitcoin with physical delivery. Physical delivery of a virtual good. No one can explain that. No one. In other news, Opera browser, they're going to include an Ethereum web wallet in their browser in the future. So those two of you who are planning to change your browser and your Ethereum wallet, you can both do that as soon as Opera get their act together. What's all that done for the price? Well, this is what the price looked like last week, and as you can see, the tarot reading forecasted that our hard work and strife will lead to abundance. Whereas more realistically, the technical analysis price charting announced that we would go downwards, maybe bouncing at the 50-day moving average. Then what happened? What happens is we went downwards, bounced at the 50-day moving average, and then continued to go down even more. The judges have graded you a grade F for your complete failure, Conroy, and they've given me an A+, my first A+, bringing the grade averages to a B- for you, Conroy, and me extended my lead at now a B+.
You were very lucky this week, Chad.
Luck's got nothing to do with it, mate. There's no random shuffle of cards in my readings. Speaking of which, on to this week's reading. First, if we look at the full weekly charts, we can see that the moving averages are still in maximum bearish configuration, and furthermore, the price has dropped once again below all of those moving averages. This is not good news. This is maximum bearish configuration. If we had a few chart lines, we can see there is some good news here because we're in a downwards pointing wedge, and a downwards pointing wedge that usually breaks to the upside eventually. Unfortunately, that's not usually till about 2/3 of the way through the wedge. We're currently barely even 1/3 of the way through, so plenty of room to bounce up and down off the sides of this wedge, some more on our way down over the coming weeks to probably return to trend. Looking more closely at the hourly candles, we can see we've had 10 days of red candles in a row, finally running out of momentum for a bit of a short bump now, perhaps. Not going to be a very strong bump though, probably bounce up about the 6,800 mark where we've had prior resistance and prior support. If it does that, unfortunately, we will complete this head and shoulders configuration, which I like to call cock and balls. We'll complete that configuration. That will be bad for Bitcoin's price. Expected target downwards from there, about $2,000. Looking more closely at the weekly candles, we can see we have had some sign of consolidation and have seen the first shoots of a growth burst. However, I don't think that burst will be long. In summary, I think we're likely to have a bit of a bump up, probably falling back again from around the 6,800 mark. And with that, it's back over to Conroy for this week's cards.
Thanks, Chad. Sounds grim out there. Let's hope this week's tarot reading gives a brighter view. We'll do our usual 4-card spread, in which the first card represents the past, the next card represents the current moment, the card after that represents the future, and our final and fourth card represents a causality, a reason for the rest of the timeline. So, let's begin the reading. Our first card represents the past in Bitcoin, and that card is the second trump card, the Priestess. She represents growth and learning, an inner world and thinking. It seems an odd card for the last week in Bitcoin. Let's see if the next card makes any sense of that. Our second card represents the current moment in Bitcoin. And that card is the 20th trump card, the Aeon. It represents eras, whole periods of time, changes, between one era and the next. When this card comes up in the current position, we can probably assume that the card about the past doesn't mean the past week, it means the past Aeon. And when the card for the future comes, that probably means the future Aeon. So, what will the age of the Priestess turn into? Let's find out with our next card. Our third card represents the future of Bitcoin, in this case a future Aeon. And that card is the third trump card, the Empress. You might think quite similar to the Priestess, they're both strong female characters, but they do have big differences. The Priestess is about inner worlds and growth and learning. She's a virginal character, whereas the Empress is about an outer world of loving and caring for others. So perhaps Bitcoin is right now changing from an inner focused era to an outer focused era. Wonder why that would be. Our final card is about the meta overall view of this timeline and the reason for the timeline to exist. And that card is powerful character, the Prince of Wands. He's like an action movie hero. So it would seem our action movie hero is progressing from one act or era to another. So the meaning of the reading has become clear. Bitcoin's action-adventure spirit is changing now, this week, from an old act or era to a new act or era. It's going from an inner-focused world to an outer-focused world. This week, a new era will see Bitcoin face outwards. That's the end of our reading for this week. We'd like to do a longer format show, perhaps concentrate on something other than price or look at some altcoins, but we're too poor to do that. If you'd like to help chip in to make that happen, here's a Bitcoin address. When we get to the end of the fundraising period, if Bitcoin has the most donations, we won't look at any altcoins at all. Meanwhile, here's an Ethereum address. They're in first place at the moment, and if they stay in first place, then when we get to the end, we'll do an Ethereum-based side reading. Here's etc. Ethereum's little daughter currency. If that's in the lead and it's currently in second place, then we'll do an Ethereum Classic based side reading, perhaps something on the immutability of the blockchain. Finally, here's Bitcoin Cash for those of you who like big blocks. You can fit in a little transaction for us. I hope you all have a good weekend, and if you can't donate, then perhaps you could like or upvote or share the links. Meantime, let's see what this new Aeon brings, and I'll see you next week. Until then, may the Bitcoin bless you.